Lately, some Manchester Township residents in Boone County have voiced dissatisfaction with ambulance service times. A North Boone Fire District and Boone County Fire District think they may have come up with a solution.
The plan is to merge, but only if voters approve this question on the March 19th primary ballot. 23 News reporter Anthony Freddy talks with some district reps about why they feel this merger is the best way to go.
Boone County Fire Protection District 5 represents most of Manchester Township. However, it's a paper district, so residents are not affiliated with a physical fire station.
I always like to think of it as one-stop shopping.
Boone County District 5 has no fire equipment or personnel. They rely on contracts with other departments to offer these services. This has some Manchester Township residents concerned about ambulance service times if an emergency strikes.
In Capron, where the ambulances are, is 12 minutes from my house. To go to the northwest corner of Manchester is at least another 15 minutes.
Hearing residents' dissatisfaction, Sherry Gieske took matters into her own hands and getting signatures to put a referendum on the primary ballot, asking if Boone County Fire Protection District 5 should be consolidated into North Boone Fire Protection District 3.
I think they really need to have the vision of the future in their mind while they're voting. Not about just tomorrow, but what opportunities come out of this.
A majority yes on the referendum would allow residents to be connected with North Boone's full services. Glenn Guthrie says North Boone Fire is on board for this merger, but the voters will have the final say.
If you choose to join us, we're going to take care of you.
We are asked to merge, and we did not ask for that.
However, Joel Nussbaum, who is on the District 5 board, believes a merger could cost its residents more money.
The balance of over $300,000 would go to District D. It would also result in a real estate tax increase.
One resident I talked with who is against the plan says, quote, "For those of us west of Grade School Road, raising taxes for less of a service doesn't sit well with a lot of us."
Thank you, Anthony. And Gieske says she will host an informational meeting on Tuesday, March 12th at Manchester Town Hall on Grade School Road in Caledonia.